Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make a heart geode shirt and I'm going to ice dye this one. I've washed and dried the shirt, soaked it in a soda ash solution for 20 to 30 minutes. I wrung it out of my Panda spin dryer so it's just barely damp. I also have the shirt turned inside out. I'd like to place a heart up in the upper portion of the shirt and I'd like the heart to be at a diagonal. So I'm going to draw a line where I'd like the center line of that heart to be. Then grabbing only this top layer of the shirt, I'm going to fold this area in half and make that line the center line. Then using a washable marker, I'm going to draw half of a heart onto this area. Now starting at the top portion of the heart, I'm going to fan fold this line. I personally like to start folding hearts from the top. I find that it's a little bit easier to make that curve in the heart if I start from the top. But if you're more comfortable folding from the bottom, either way works just fine. Once I have it folded, I'm going to tie it up with some sinew. Because the sinew is wax coated, when I make a couple of wraps of this sinew and I tighten it down on the shirt, it'll form a waterproof barrier that won't allow the dye to get underneath this area. So because I'm going to tie this shirt in a geode fashion, I want to start tying from the bottom of the shirt. That's my preferred way to tie geodes. So I'm going to grab the heart portion that I just tied on this shirt and lift it up off of the table to let the fabric fall naturally. I'm going to slide my hand down the shirt to kind of smooth it out a little bit and then lay it down on the table. Beginning somewhere toward the end of the shirt, I'm going to tie my first sinew line. And just like I did with the heart, I'm going to wrap the sinew around a couple of times and tighten it down really well. Because geodes are not perfect, I want to have some of the wrinkles and the different lines in this shirt. I also don't want the areas in between sinew lines to be real consistent. So I'm going to make some of the areas between sinew lines larger and some of them smaller. I'm trying to make it as random as possible. Periodically, you'll see me adjust the rest of the shirt. I'm just making sure that it's flowing nicely, but I don't want it to look too perfect. Because geodes aren't perfect, I want to try to make this look a little bit more natural. So to tie with the sinew, all I am doing is I'm wrapping it around a couple of times and pulling really tight using my sinew puller. Now that the shirt is tied, I'm going to go ahead and set it aside for a few days and let it dry out really well. Because this fold is so thick, if I go ahead and try to dye it while it's still damp, I'm probably not going to get great saturation in the middle of the shirt. I can end up with big white spots in areas that I don't intend or want to be there. Okay, so I'm going to ice dye this shirt, but I'm going to ice dye it on a rack. So I've placed the shirt on one of my dyeing racks, and I'm using some silicone cake molds to make an ice barrier around the shirt. I've hooked some cake molds together, and I'm forming them around the shirt. Then I'm going to use some wooden clothespins and attach those to the rack. That will help hold the cake molds up close to the shirt. I'll leave a link down below the video in the description for where I purchased these cake molds. I'm trying to straighten out the heart portion and get it to lay flat right on the very end of this geode. The nice thing about these silicone cake molds is that they are reusable. After I'm finished using them, I take them to the sink and scrub them really well with some soap and water, and then just allow them to air dry. They truly can be molded to almost any shape. Okay, so now it's time to start applying the dye. I'm going to begin right on the very end with the heart area, and I'm going to use Orchid from Dharma Trading Company. You can apply dye to geodes in several different ways. You can either just randomly sprinkle the dye over the top of the geode, or you can kind of follow the lines made with sinew. That's what I'm going to do with this shirt. I'm going to add the dye to the different sinew sections. I'm going to add the orchid to a few more sections before I move on to the next color. The next color I'm using is Sweet Pea from Dharma Trading Company. Next, I'm using Sea Glass from Dharma Trading Company. I'm adding quite a bit of dye to each one of these sections. I would prefer not to have to come back and apply a second coat of dye to the back side. I found that if I apply enough dye to the front side, I can come back and add another layer of ice if I need to try to force more of the dye down through the shirt. The next color is Sky Blue from Grateful Dyes. The next color is Jade from Dharma Trading Company. And the final color is Ice Blue from Pro Chemical and Dyes. If you'll notice, I've pressed the silicone cake molds up as tight as I can to the side of the shirt to try to reduce how much of the dye falls off of the shirt. Quite a bit of dye still falls off the sides of the shirt. However, pressing those silicone cake molds up as close as I can get does help with that some. The fact that the shirt is not flat kind of adds to the difficulty with trying to keep the dye on top. Now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of soda ash over the top of the dye just to make sure that when the ice melts and runs through the shirt, there's plenty of soda ash remaining in the shirt to react with the dye. Now I'm going to load on the ice. After the top is covered with ice, I'm going to set the shirt aside and allow it to process. I came back a few hours after the first layer of ice had melted and I checked the shirt. The dye had pretty much gone through to the back side, but I had quite a bit of undissolved dye sitting on top, so I went ahead and added a second layer of ice. I allowed the shirt to process for 24 hours after the second layer of ice melted. I took the shirt to the sink and I began rinsing in cold water to rinse out all of the soda ash. After rinsing in cold for a while, I untied the shirt and began warming the water up to hot. I rinsed in hot water to get out any of the excess dye that didn't react with the shirt. After a little while, I went ahead and just soaked the shirt in some hot water with a little bit of Dawn dish soap. When the water cooled off, I changed it out a couple of more times and continued soaking until the water was almost clear. Then I put the shirt in the washing machine and washed it with a hot cycle along with a little bit of Dharma's textile detergent. So after washing and drying the shirt, this is what it looks like. So what do you all think about this shirt? I personally love the shirt. I love the color combination and I think all the colors work really well together. The sweet pea kind of got lost in this shirt. I don't see a lot of it showing up. Remember, I put it right outside of the heart area, and then I put several more lines of it down the shirt. So I don't know if it was just too weak of a color to show up or whether maybe it got overtaken by some of the other colors. But I think the other colors show up really well, and I like the splits that came out of the different colors. The jade and the sea glass I think work really well together. And ice blue I think is a really pretty color. It's kind of a little bit more of that cornflower type blue, the lighter blue in the shirt. And I like the way it works or combines with the jade and the sea glass. I also think that the geode portion ended up being really random, which is exactly what I was going for. I think it's a very interesting shirt. I really like the way it turned out. If you guys have enjoyed this video and would like to see some more like it, I sure would appreciate it if you would like the video and leave me a comment. I also would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.